Well, hello everybody. It is, wow, like a day and a half left of the new year here on the East Coast of the United States, and I realize that there are parts of the world that are already starting celebration for, the beginning parts of New Year's Eve. So, we are hopping on here because today is step 4 in the 4-step process, in my 4-step process about planning out the next year. And it's, who are you becoming? Who do you need to become in order to accomplish everything that you want to accomplish? So let me just share this over in my private Facebook group, here over on my phone. Share. There we go. And hopefully I'll be able to see all the questions that pop up. But tonight we're really going to talk about the 4th step, about who you're becoming. And when I think about like everything that I've been sharing with you in this process that I go through with my private clients, you could really even use this, not necessarily just for planning out the entire year, but you can also use it for, hey, like I've got a new launch that's coming out. There's a new goal that I've got. Maybe even just a quarter. Like who do I need to become to accomplish these goals for this quarter, to accomplish this income goal? Who do I need to become? And it's all like kind of like thinking with the end in mind. Something that I've used over and over again, like when I wrote both of my books, Rethink Leadership and Rethink Your Leadership, I always thought about starting with the end in mind. So if I sit here and I think about, well, all right, so here are the goals that I have for myself, the projects that I want to accomplish, and even the habits that I want to adopt. Who do I need to become to get those things? So sometimes that might seem like a little like, that's a little bit hard. That's a little bit harder for me. So maybe you take a little step back and you think of your goal and what's the type of person that accomplishes that. The sort of a person that, completes that project, the sort of person that has that habit. And I am going to give you some examples. And I'm actually going to use some of my own personal examples. But let me just say hello to Jeremy and hello to Juliana for jumping on. And Elise, thank you very much. Let's see. Jeremy says, who do I need to become? Yes. And Elise says, there's a total teaching mentality. Like, I love it. Thank you. So who do we need to become to have these goals, right? So for a speaker, I'm getting a little tongue-tied. It does happen to me. Because the reason why I say, who do you need to become? Because if you were already that person, you'd already have whatever it is that you want to accomplish. You'd already made that accomplishment. That habit would already be in your life. That project would already be done or on its way to being done. All of those things would automatically already be happening. So let's take, for example, you know how I love fitness and exercise. So let's just take, of course, I'm going to use like a fitness one. So let's take a big one. Let's just say you want to run a marathon. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but just bear with me with this particular example. And let's just say you're a person who, I don't have any running experience, but I really want to run, a half marathon or a marathon next year. Well, you're going to have to, one, pick a marathon or a half marathon, put the date on your calendar. But let's just say I just want to get into running shape. I want to start running. And well, what sort of person runs? Well, somebody who, has sneakers, has a wardrobe, probably eats healthy, isn't eating at McDonald's every day. What else about you start to think about what's a runner like? Well, maybe runners hang out with other runners, so maybe I should join a running club. And so I am speaking like a little bit from experience. I've never run a marathon. I just want to put that out there. I've never run a marathon, but I have done several half marathons. I did belong to a runner's club. So I did have people that I could, like train with once a week. But I also enjoyed, like running on my own. And so what else, like if you're going to run a marathon, you have to train for that. So somebody who does a marathon or does a half marathon like I've done, you have to plan out your workouts. You have to plan out your runs. And for me, I was just always wanted to make sure this is, I don't think this is in the marathon or training handbook, but they say you're supposed to just like run up to a certain point, a certain number of hours, a certain number of miles. And then like, you don't have to worry about doing the entire like 13.1 miles, like a half marathon. But I was the sort of person, I was just like, well, I want to make sure that I can actually run those 13.1 miles before the actual race. And so I would actually walk myself backwards for about 14 weeks. And that was my training time. But again, like you have to start to think about like, all right, let's put myself in the shoes that I've crossed the finish line of that half marathon. I've crossed the finish line of you fill in the blank to your goal. What's the sort of person? What do they think? What do they do? What are their habits that got them to finish that? Because if you want to run a half marathon, but you're not doing any running and you got the date on the calendar, but like you decide like, yeah, I'll run like another day because it's rainy outside. It's too cold outside. Springtime's not here. I don't have the sneakers yet. I don't have the right jogging pants, like whatever the excuse is. Well, guess what? That's probably not what a runner thinks. So give me some hearts or give me some high fives. Like if you agree with this, totally get what I'm saying, are with me. Or if you don't feel this way, feel free to like type in like, no, like this is how I think. Always love to hear. And I'm just checking over here to make sure that there aren't any questions I don't want to miss any questions. So great. So what are some of the goals that you have for next year? I mean, like, let's share. Love to hear what you guys are striving for. One of mine is, because I have done half marathons before, is I would really like to do them again. Something about those long runs, like the little, like 3 and 5K. I'm just like, yeah, probably just because I'm not a fast runner. So I'm not into the, let's see how fast, like I can run this. I'm more about the, I'd rather just like, over time, like give me 2 hours and I'll go do a half marathon. And I enjoy being outside. There are certain half marathons that I don't like to do. I prefer not to do half marathons like in cities. So those are things that I know about myself because I don't really like to run on like asphalt and concrete. I prefer like the outdoors and the hills and the mountains, personally. Well, let's see. I'm just reading some of the things that people are saying about like some of the goals that they want. Wanda wants to write another book. Wanda, you just finished a book, so I'm so proud of you that I always feel like after you finish a book, then you're just like, I want to do it again. Because that you're impacting so many lives. So congratulations that you are already thinking about book number 2. Jeremy says he also wants to write a book. Fantastic. That's something that you and I should talk about. Sandy says, I would like to teach online from my book. Oh, that's a fabulous idea for you, Sandy. I love that. And Jen's goal is that she's going to be publishing her book next month. Congratulations. I love that. You guys got some great, great goals that you want to accomplish. So like Jen, like your book is like, is done. So maybe you want to make it an Amazon bestseller. So if you had an Amazon bestseller, you're like, what did the author do? What did the author think? What were some of the habits of that author? To be able to just like think into the future and then work your way backwards. One of the other things that I've really been thinking about are some of the habits that I want to start having more in 2020. And I'll share with you, like, one of the habits that I want is to read more. I love audiobooks, and I'm going to share with you a particular audiobook that I am listening to right now. But it's creating the habit. There was a time where I used to read a lot. Now, a lot of people read just before they go to bed, and I love to do that, but here's what I notice. My body is so in tune for, it associates the bedroom, the bed with, okay, I got to go to sleep. So how many of you are maybe like me, and you pull out a book and you have good intentions of reading a good 20, 30 pages, but you fall asleep after the first, page? Well, that's me. I end up falling asleep rather quickly after the first page. So if I'm going to read something in bed, it's got to be short, sweet, and concise. So I can't be, my goal is to read a book a month, and not an audio book, because I could do that all day long, but it's really to find some more time to just sit and read. So I'm being easy on myself. So I'm sharing this with you guys so that you can, maybe you could apply this to some of your goals. So my goal is to read 20 to 30 pages, but I'm not going to January 1st, come this Wednesday, I got to make sure that I read 30 pages that day and 30 pages the next day, because I think I'm setting myself up for disappointment. I might fumble. So what I'm going to do is, during the month of January, my goal is to read 10 pages a month. And then I'm going to increase it by 5, so that on February, I'm starting to read 15 pages, and then 20 pages come March. Now, let's just say by the end of January, I am up to 15 pages. Well, then I might say, hey, instead of continuing with 15 pages in February, let's up it to 20. Because that's the thing about when you sort of these progressive increases, little baby steps, it's just like running a half marathon. I can't go out and train, and my first run can't be a 10-miler. No, it probably can't even be a 5-miler at this particular point. I probably could do 5 miles if I was allowed to run and mostly walk right now. But again, it's just let me go out and just do a couple of miles, and I'm going to run and walk. And then I'm going to build that up until I'm just running. And then I'm going to add on the miles. So that's exactly what I'm going to do with reading. I want to say I'm just going to be kind to myself. I'm going to start off my goals, 10 pages a day, then 15, then I'm going to up it to 20, so that hopefully by the end of March, I'm up to 25 to 30 pages a day. I have found that sweet spot in my day that I can read. So that's the other thing so that's going to become my habit. But you want to figure out when can I put this in my calendar? Running. If you are training for a marathon or a half marathon, that takes time. It takes time and commitment. And they have found that the people who put it in their calendar, here's when I'm going to do this activity, more likely to do it. And that research, I'm sure I am not the first person to share this with you. So let me just jump over here and let me see what some of the other comments are, just to say hello. Jen says that the internet must be freezing up. It could partially be here too. Jeremy says, out like a light. I think you're talking about once I hit the pillow. Hands down, I cannot read in bed right before going to bed. I'm glad I'm not alone. Definitely need those stepping stones. Thank you, Elise. And those stepping stones help, but to be able to have those check-ins. So here's the other thing. If whatever your goals are and whatever the habits are that are going to help you achieve those goals, put it in your calendar. Check in with yourself. I mean, thank goodness for smartphones. We can put these little messages in that says hey, how's the reading going? You can just kind of be fun and playful, or even just to have a date on your calendar, or an accountability buddy, somebody who can check in with. I'm trying to say two things at once here. But also just to reevaluate, okay, like, here are my goals. I'm on track, because this is why people forget about their New Year's resolutions. They've got these lovely dreams and ideas about the person that they want to be and the things that they want to accomplish. But then life gets in the way. And remember, habits. There are so many things that we do without thinking because it's become a habit. And whatever the goal or who you want to become and all that good stuff for next year, it's not a habit yet. You're not doing it subconsciously. That's, you're doing it consciously. So to be able to check in with yourself to say, hey, I need to check in, like, am I on track for these goals? Ooh, maybe you might even realize, darn, I completely forgot about that one. Let's go back to the half marathon. That might not be something that you need to even start doing, in January. The half marathon that I was telling you about that I'm planning on doing is in the beginning of June. So I would have to walk myself back. So there's really no reason for me to start running outdoors, especially here in New Hampshire in January. I actually get hives. Here's an interesting fact about me. I actually get hives if I try to exercise outside, or actually even like downstairs in my basement. I've noticed this, 60 degrees and below. It doesn't literally it's just my legs that will get hives. And so it doesn't matter how much, if I've got warm clothing on, it's pretty rough. So there's a certain temperature that I need to run in. So you will never see me running the Boston Marathon, because people that are running the Boston Marathon at the end of April, they are training all winter. So you won't see me doing that. Oh gosh, I feel like I lost my train of thought there by talking about, regarding when you need to start working on that particular goal. So let's just say you're not going to do this race. You're not going to let's go back to Wanda. She wants to start writing her second book. Well, maybe she's realizing, I'm still in launch mode and promoting this book, but it's around June when I want to start writing the second book. So she doesn't have to start writing until June. I mean, she doesn't mean that she can't think about it and she can't start planning it, but to be able to put the goal, the habit, the project in the right time and place of the year is going to help with your success rate as well. So let's see. Sandy says, I usually end my workday with reading in the late afternoon. Oh, that's a great idea. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, I love the Panda Planner. I have been hearing about this Panda Planner, but I don't have one myself. Checking monthly, weekly, and daily. And Elise says, oh my goodness, I get hives when I move my body in the cold too. Mine are only on whatever skin is exposed to the cold. Oh, yeah, no, it doesn't matter. I've got running bottoms, and even if they're thick, I still get the hives. I have a girlfriend who runs, and she might even be watching this, and she is so allergic to the cold weather and still lives here in New England. She actually has to run with an EpiPen, just because. So she really has to. She has to really cover up, and she needs the humidity. So she's always got some sort of a mask that's covering her face. She won't give up running, so the doctor just gave her an EpiPen. And she goes, I have been, all right, Wanda's already working on the notes for the next book, which is fantastic. So this has just really all been about who do we need to become so that we accomplish our goals. So what I'd love to hear from you guys right now is, what are some of the characteristics? You don't have to share your goals. I mean, some people have shared a couple of them. But what are some of the characteristics of the person that does accomplish a goal that you have set out for yourself? I'll give you guys a second while I just take a sip of my lemon water here. And this is kind of a fun way to end the year. And while you guys are typing that in, if you also want to share with me, love to know, what are you doing tomorrow? I say tomorrow when I realize also some parts of the world, it is already New Year's Eve. One of my team members, my virtual assistant who lives in New Zealand, she sent me a message today saying she's the woman who does the show notes for this particular for my Facebook Lives, and she just said it's already New Year's Eve here, so I will have the show notes done by, she's like, your Wednesday, so January 1st. She just needs a little bit of because she's going to celebrate the end of the year, and she should. So Jeremy says consistency and discipline. I love those two words, by the way. There is nothing wrong with being disciplined, and it is all about consistency, showing up consistently. In order to be a person with a successful Facebook Live, I have to show up every Monday at 5 o'clock because this is the time that I have picked for the show. If at some point in the future I decide hey, I'm going to change the time, change the day, I'm going to let you guys know. But it's about showing up consistently, consistently, writing, like social media post, your thought process, your thought leadership, even consistently having some thinking time in your schedule. I highly recommend that. And I would even kind of want you guys to make it an experiment for next month. For the month of January, schedule in an hour of thinking time through, just 1 hour a week. Just thinking. So that means no devices. So you can't be taking notes on your phone because it might bang. Somebody might send you a text, or you might get some sort of a notification on Facebook. Nothing like that. You'll just have to do it the old pen and paper and just thinking time. Nice and quiet, and see what happens and see what comes to you. I was doing this the other day and thought of a new coaching program that I might, I still have to work out all the details, but that idea would not have come to me if I hadn't been quiet. So love to challenge you all to just doing it during the month of January. Like I said to my private clients, at the end of the month, you get to either edit how you do this, or you get to go back to your old ways if you don't like it at all, if it didn't prove to be worthwhile. Let's see. Can you give us examples of your question? Can you explain that a little more? Just because I do have a tendency, now I feel like I'm talking about a whole bunch of things. Sandy says, Sandy's talking about her celebration. A glass of champagne for sure, and having a party with my granddaughter. Oh, fantastic. I know your granddaughter is visiting. I've been seeing it all over social media. Thank you so much for sharing. I got to go back to one. It's can you give us an example of my question? Yeah, it's just not coming back to me as quickly as I'd like. It's probably because I'm on the spot here. So just refresh my memory as I'm trying to think of it too. So, I think here's what I think you might be talking about, Wanda. Correct me if I'm wrong. Who do you need to become to accomplish those goals? What sort of person has those habits? So while we're talking about habits, this is the book that I have been recently listening to. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And where do I had the tab up, but nope, not anymore. James Clear, Atomic Habits, highly recommend it. He really talks about the habits that we have subconsciously, how teeny tiny, positive movements move us forward every single day. So it's not about the big giant gain, but it's the little things that you do every single day, the choices that we make, that we see the results later. So Wanda, I'm going to use you for an example, and all the other people who have written books who are watching this right now, including myself, that you don't write the bestseller in a day. No, you wrote every single day, and maybe your goal was to write 500 words every day. And you write 500 words on Monday, and then the next day, and then the next day. And pretty soon, you've written 10,000, 12,000, 15,000 words. And that's how you get a book done. Well, what I always tell my clients who are writing books, you need something to edit. So the first stuff that you start typing and you start writing, it's not going to be perfect. I'm sorry. Even some of the best writers that are out there, they'll tell you like that they are writing for the garbage can, because what they're writing, they're just getting stuff and thoughts on paper, on the keyboard. You need something to edit. So it's about teeny tiny baby steps every single day. Jeremy, being consistent. Like what sort of habits can you put into place? What sort of triggers? How can you remind yourself that's of that habit to be consistent? Whatever it is that you want to be consistent and disciplined around. Let's just say maybe it is writing, maybe it is showing up. Here's one that I find a lot of people have a hard time with, making the follow-up calls, keep, like just reaching out to people, maybe just making the offer. A lot of my clients, I do attract a lot of people that are in direct sales, and sometimes making the ask is a very weak muscle. So I challenge them like, hey, by the time like we speak next week, 2 asks a day. That's a total of 14 asks, 14 people that you're going to need to reach out to. And then I increase the weight, if you will. And then it's 3 asks a day. And then it's up to 4. So by the time like it's 4, like you are reaching out to 28 people every single week. That's consistency when you do it every single day. And then it just becomes a natural part of your day. So we've been talking a lot about, like who are you becoming? Because you've got all these dreams and goals, and I want you to achieve them. I was on a call earlier today with somebody just like, oh, yeah, but I've done this before in the past, and it didn't work out. And then I ended up being, like really frustrated and really down on myself. And it was just like, yeah, but this can be different. What's the sort of, that's why I broke this down into 4 steps. That's why this particular week, this is so key. Absolutely key. Because if you were already that person, you'd already have whatever you wanted. But who do you need to become? And let's work on becoming that person. And becoming that person is about improving just by 1% every single day and having better habits in place. And then habits is, like you're going to need to cue yourself. That's all there is to it, especially if you've got a new habit. Cue yourself, put some reminders in your phone, weekly check-ins just to see like, hey, am I doing this? Especially if it's not something that you need to do every single day. If you're only doing it like once a week, those are the ones that are really hard to like remember. So you want to make sure that you set yourself up, put some sort of reminders in your phone, put appointments in your calendar, just to remind you about doing whatever it is that you want to do, remind you about the habit, remind you to be consistent. Like maybe you have like a friend that calls you and says, hey, have you been consistent in your writing? Have you been disciplined in your writing? Have you been, like making follow-up calls? I mean, that's why we hire coaches, people that help push us along. So I'm just going to I want to thank you guys for being here. The best advice you gave me while I was writing was to write the last chapter. It was so much easier to fill in. Oh, fantastic. I love that, Wanda. And if anybody ever is thinking of writing a book and you want to have a little chat with me, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help guide you through that process to make writing that book in 2020 so much easier. Again, I have the philosophy and the process of starting with the end in mind. Make sure you write the right book, everybody who wants to write a book. But let me just like open this up to if you guys got any questions. Give me some hearts or some thumbs up if you've got like some great value from this particular live. This has been fun. I'm so glad that so many people jumped on. I know it's so close to the holiday, and we got all. It's just going to be fun tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it. For me, a new year always feels like a new like a new outfit, like something fun. But this whole new decade, it feels like I'm getting a whole new wardrobe, and I'm really like I'm being easy on myself. With my goals, because especially in the beginning, as I like put new habits into place, and can always reevaluate after the first quarter. I can like, okay, I'm gonna work on some new habits now as I get used to and start it becomes like second nature to us to have certain habits. That's when you want to like add some more on. When I was doing executive coaching, and I would have executive coaches that, okay, I'm going to coach my people. I'm going to listen more. I'm going to have engaging conversations. I'm going to let them do this. I would tell them, like, don't go and do it all at once. You try and do it all at once, and you are going to just set yourself up for failure and frustration. Let's pace ourselves. Let's just practice the skill of listening. And then the next month, let's practice the skill of coaching our team members. The month after that, let's delegate more. So be easy on yourself. Jeremy says, love it. He's like, new wardrobe. Yes, suit up. Let's it's like a new wardrobe. That's what it feels like to me. Thank you. I needed your insight today. Oh, you're very welcome, Wanda. I'm glad that you guys all got some value from this today. Happy New Year. And if you are looking for some support in 2020, feel free to reach out to me. I have 2 spots open to work with me privately, and I'm looking for the right ambitious people. So you guys all have a happy new year. I will see you this time, this same place next week. Bye.